no is not an option, right? If somebody trusts you to try to bring a solution, or if there's a task to happen, then you might have to get creative. You might have to figure it out. You might have to, do 100 push-ups versus, 10 push-ups, but you find a way to get it done.
Welcome to the No Excuse Pro Podcast, your weekly dose of motivation and actionable advice. If you're a realtor, financial planner, business owner, or anyone who's tired of making excuses and ready to take your success to the next level, you've come to the right place. Join your host, Kevin Brierton, each week as he chats with industry leaders who are going beyond the excuses to achieve their goals. So no excuses accepted. Let's get started.
Hey, Ed, thanks so much for coming on right now. I'm super excited to have you on. I've known you for a long time, worked with you, and you are somebody, when I think of no excuses and just getting the work done, I think of you because there's very little excuses when it comes to any part of your business, but also your family life. I think that's important because if people are doing something around business and they are on top of their business, but yet they're not on top of their family life, that could be a problem. So when I think of no excuse, I wanted to start a No Excuse Pro interviews because I believe that people have so many dreams and things they want to do in their life, but yet they're held back because of excuses. They may do their vision boards and dream boards, but then there's some reason or something that holds them back. And I want to kind of dive into some questions here to understand more about your situation and what you do. But first, tell me a little bit about you and what you do.
Thanks for having me on, Kevin. This is awesome. As we said, worked a lot together, known you for a long time, both professionally and personally. And so, when you asked me to do this, I was excited to jump on and, share a little bit and hopefully if what I share makes a difference for somebody, great. And I think that's probably what I would love to be known for the most, is just making a difference for folks. And so I guess a little bit of background for me. I grew up an Army brat, moved all over as a kid. Unbeknownst to me, I think that helped me develop some pretty great interpersonal skills with individuals. You're either talking with folks or you're lonely. Basically, you were meeting people. That at the time, as a kid, I don't think I really appreciated it, but now in life later on, I recognize it, and I'm really grateful for those experiences there. I guess what people know me now is that, I'm a real estate professional. Yes, I have my license. I help people transact, but beyond that, I like to think of myself as more of an advisor. I help people, yes, buy primary residences, but I also help them build wealth through real estate as well. I'm a practitioner. I own rentals. I invest. I look for opportunities, and I also help other people do that as well. So.
Cool. Well, I know you do a great job there. So what's the one thing that makes you different and makes a difference in your success? What's the one thing that makes a difference in your success?
If I was to look at one thing, I would say consistent action. That's what it always comes down to. You could always plan, you always scheme, you can always tweak, right? But it comes down to, swinging the axe, so to speak, swinging the hammer, driving the nail. Without that, everything else is in theory until you actually execute.
So what's the execution? What's the action? What's the one action you think that is most important to be consistent around?
It's for me, how I have my business designed, it's outreach. It's talking with folks, getting curious, meeting people, uncovering those real estate needs.
Okay. How do you think what's the best way of doing that for you, of uncovering the needs or meeting people? Is just kind of curious, how does that look for you in your business?
I joke around. I have a really bad habit of becoming really good friends with my clients. And so a lot of it's just checking in with my friends, see what's going on, see, it inevitably, I never go into, with the goal to just talk about real estate. I really just want to see what they're, what's going on with them. And inevitably, I'm the real estate guy. And so it comes back, comes back to a real estate conversation in some form or fashion. Uh, so, I've really designed my business to have some passive and active touches with my past clientele, and then for my goals, I guess as I guess you could say production goals, but I like to think of it as value add goals, and like how can I add value to the world, right? And real estate has always been that vehicle that I have been able to make a difference for folks, and I have some lofty goals, and just reaching out to my friends all the time isn't gonna have that kind of network of conversations that reach that I want to offer to the world. So I do some cold prospecting, right? We offer a website that people could do some real estate search on, and I could have a chance to engage with them and uncover some needs, and earn the privilege to get new clients, and in turn get new friends.
So what's the one thing that people ask your help with? I mean, what's the one thing that they ask for your help to solve a problem? What is the main thing they ask for?
So the one thing that they ask for me the most, I don't know if there's one thing, right? It really is kind of it circles around real estate. Well, shoot, I don't know if it's always real estate. I mean, people ask me about life. They ask me about they ask me about finances. They ask me about being a dad. They ask me about obviously real estate. I don't know if there's really one thing, but I guess for the sake of this interview and this conversation, real estate. I mean, it's have me analyze an opportunity or how this home will fit for them in their lifestyle. So
Yeah.
am I answering your question here?
No, it's great. I mean, there's no right answer. So, it's
Yeah.
just something that I just curious, everybody's a little bit different. And so, I hear different answers. So no right or wrong answer, just curious more than anything. So tell me a time when you had to overcome an obstacle for a client, and how did that make you feel?
Gosh, I mean, there's a couple times. I mean, I think that's really that's one of the values that I add is that really creative or real estate when it comes to real estate. I mean, while the transaction might look very similar, there's never one quite the same. And so I don't know, one that pops up to mind is it was a young couple. They were engaged. This was back in 09, 010. So we were the kind of housing crisis at that point in time. Cash was definitely king at that point in time. There were FHA buyers. So really had no shot, no shot to get a deal done at that point in time, unless I actually sourced an opportunity for them. And so we kind of narrowed it down to a couple of they were looking for a townhome condo. So we narrowed it down to a couple of complexes, and basically I went and knocked doors. Well, I take that back. I did a quick search to see. Well, there's a lot of people that were in distress situations at that point in time. So I did a quick search to see who was in a distressed situation, and I went and knocked doors in those communities, and left a note behind. And so I got done, and I was driving back, and before I even got to the freeway, I got a call from one of those notes, and was ultimately able to put together a deal for my clients. Well, and also help that previous homeowner out of a tough situation. And we got a short sale done, kept her out of foreclosure and bankruptcy, and obviously help my young client get to a new deal. So
how'd that make you feel when you brought that deal together?
I mean, there's always the thrill. Well, it made me feel useful, I guess. Yes, but I don't. Yeah, I mean, I was proud. In my mind, I knew that's not what a typical agent would do. they might kind of sit back and just wait for something to hit the market, or we just tell their clients, oh, sorry, you're FHA, you're not a buyer in this market, right, kind of thing. Um, and yeah, I think for me, and I'm grateful for my parents and some of my experiences. It's like um, no is not an option, right? If somebody trusts you to try to bring a solution, or if there's a task to happen, then you might have to get creative. You might have to figure it out. You might have to, do 100 push-ups versus 10 push-ups, but you find a way to get it done. And so
Yeah. Well, tell me about a resource or service that you provide that really changes the client experience. Is there something specific or resource or service that you provide?
well, I
Do you
think
go and knock on doors and give notes, or what does it look
yeah,
like?
yeah. So I mean, yes, right. I have no problem cold calling. In that regard, just because you brought up door knocking, right? A lot of times what I'll do is I will actually skip trace a neighborhood if they're looking for something or whatever, and then it's for me it's efficiency and scale of time at that point in time. So I think that's one thing I've done is as I've grown in this business, I look for how could I be more efficient, not with it, and the door knocking is not necessarily it just takes a long time, right? You have to drive and you have to go, and as opposed to when you make a bunch of phone calls here, I get hit multiple opportunities maybe at the same time for clients. So in that regards, but I would say the service that we that I actually haven't even been really aware of it until recently is we worked really hard on our systems. And so the experience that our clients have when we work with them, once we get them under contract, it is, I would say it's world class. It's repeatable, it's predictable. The feedback I've gotten from the clients that we worked with, especially those that we inherited maybe from another agent, is that wow, this is a completely different experience than we've had before. And yeah, it's just awesome. I think. Well, it's not me thinking it's awesome. It's the clients thinking it's awesome, and that's the feedback we've been getting on that.
What
So.
do you do? Is there anything specific in that process that
Mhm.
you do on the front end of the process? Like right when you meet somebody, I want to do something, I'm not even sure what to do. Do you have a process that do you do like a consultation? Do
Mhm.
you meet with them and sit down and do a goals analysis for the buyer?
Mhm.
Before any type of lender situation, is there something that's in your court where you have a process around? I'm just kind of curious, like what type of resources or services you provide
Mhm.
really at the early stages of the process for a buyer or seller.
Uh, yes. Yeah, we always sit down, do kind of a buyer consultation. I call it the win the game conversation. For one, you got to find, well, first of all, you got to find what's important to them, right? And a lot of it's features of the house and so forth. And then depending on the market that we're in, it's like, you have to have a really direct conversation, not sugarcoat it, right? It's like, if we're talking 2 years ago, and I'm like, hey, the deal in the market right now is getting your offer accepted, right? That's the win in this market, right? Right now we're like, hey, if you see a house that you like, don't be afraid to write on it, right? We're back to a normal market. Homes are moving in, 3 months, which is 90 days. It's still, which means if you're doing a finance deal, cut 45 days on that. It's going under contract in a month and a half, right? Anyway,
So one thing that I
yeah.
saw, I saw this millionaire, it was a $1 million listing recording that I saw recently, and I was like really interesting because there was two agents. One agent went in there first, talked about numbers, talked about the market, talked about what he think he could list for, all the stuff that's kind of the basic stuff around real estate. And then Ryan Serhant came in and was like, hey, he didn't talk about any of the numbers. He just looked at the house and going, yeah, it's a beautiful place. He's like, I could tell, are you an artist? And he's like, yeah. And so he goes, man, I can tell you put a lot of time and energy into this. And this
Yeah.
is a really special house for you. And he's like, yeah. He's like, well, how would it make you feel if we went and got you another canvas for you to paint and do something even better? And the guy was just like, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
And so the shift was, one agent was all about price and about
Yeah.
market and all this stuff. And then he came in with a totally different thing of like, wait, because the other guy was like, yeah, he probably doesn't want to move, or I really think I nailed it on the price. They just got to get the price right and all this stuff. And it wasn't about price. It was about, hey, like, let's figure out what they actually want to do and then go do it for them. Because
Yeah.
I find, probably like you, a lot of people don't know really what they want, and they look for us to guidance. And
Yeah.
you know what? There's good times to buy when the market's up, and there's good times to buy when it's down. And there's bad times in both markets too. So sometimes it's about what's going on in their situation and like slowing down and going. It was something that It resonated with me because it made me realize it's not always just about the numbers. There's something else going on, and unless you're a straight up investor, there's always something else going on. It's your family, it's your money, it's your house where you're going to live at. If it's just a straight up pulled, does the dollars make sense and I'm an investor? Okay, well, maybe that's a little different, but a lot of times there's a underlying motive going on. And I've really started leaning into trying to figure out the why. I just talked to a client, recently where they want to help out their mom, and they were like, well, I want this payment. Why do you want that payment? And I kept going a couple layers deeper, and I found out that the mom was moving into retirement. The daughter really wanted the payments low enough because of her budget, and they wanted to be close enough for her grandkids. And there's a story behind it, right? So I started getting the story behind it rather than just this. And I said, well, you need to be close by. You need this, you need this, you need this. Well, what if we could find a property that would work? But it may be the property price might be higher or the payment might be higher, but we solved all your goals. Oh, that would be okay. So you just go, I don't want to ever put people in a position they can't afford it. But I also, to your point, sometimes you got to be pretty blunt about, I want an $800 payment. Like, how much do you want that 3-bedroom house? Let's talk about that, because it's not $800.
Yeah.
No,
and that's perfect. Sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
No, I mean, that's perfect. I mean, and honestly, I think that's why, like I joke, I become really good friends with my clients, is because it is finding out when I do that buyer consultation or whatever, it is finding out the why, right? And that's the, if, believe it or not every transactions is rainbows and unicorns, right? It's there's pitfalls, right? But the thing that's going to carry the day is really that why, right? Like the example you used is like, hey, I know this is, maybe a little more expensive than you have, but man, hey, think how awesome it's going to be that your mom is this close and she has the house and the amenities that's right there. Is that worth you drinking Dunkin' or drinking Folgers versus Starbucks, right? And then people usually figure it out.
Yeah. Well, do you believe there's some sort of formula or pattern for becoming successful?
No, yeah. Is there a formula? The formula is taking actions, right? And not giving up. I mean, I think that's when I look at real estate, I think the people that have become successful in here have been able to stay in the industry, right? From the outside, it's a very romantic looking industry. But once you get in it, you realize, man, there's a lot of competition. There's you're really dealing with folks in transition, and when folks are in transition, then the emotions stir up, right? And I mean, if you're entering the business just for, like I said, the romantic vision of it outside, commission checks and the prestige and so forth, and then yeah, then I think that's the wrong reason to get into the industry, right? It's because yeah, it is it can be trying, but it can also be so rewarding, right? But I think folks, have something go sideways on them and they get defeated and they're like, oh, this is not going to work, or they don't surround themselves with the right people to help
Tell me a
champion
little bit
them.
more about that.
So I anybody that's coming into the industry, I always recommend teaming up with somebody, get a mentor. I've had mentors along the way, get a coach, and again, you're not doing it on your own. I think I think yeah, you could very easily find yourself ahead of your skis in this, and then people. I think people, if they don't know, if they don't have a go-to resource to help them out, they I don't know, they panic, right?
Yeah.
And so I think yeah, get your squad, right? Get the people in your corner, get the people who are going to support you. And I've seen it a lot. I mean, on my team, we've mentored, I don't know, 30 agents throughout the year, or throughout my years here, and that have kind of come and gone. Those have been successful, those have not. And so that's one thing that I've seen. The folks that are successful, plug in, get some mentorship, and then and it really helps them have stability in the industry.
So I was going to ask you about the biggest challenge customers face, but let's do the biggest challenge. I'd love to learn, like, to what we're talking about. What is the biggest challenge that you think real estate professionals face being successful?
Biggest challenge. So I think the start is actually getting opportunities, right? So I think doing what it takes to actually get a client to, everything's in theory. You go get your license, and then you're like, okay, now go, represent somebody in a transaction. Okay, great. Where do I find that person? Oh, okay, that's a good question, right? And so I think that's the to start. That's what it is. Getting opportunities, and I do. I guess you can call it sales skills, or I call it people skills. You definitely need to. You don't have to know everything, but you need to know where to go to get the answer for everything, right? And also not be afraid. Hey, that's a really good question, client, Mr. Mrs. Client. I don't have the answer for you, but I'll go get it for you, right? And have the not have the ego drive the ship, have the the ability to present that with confidence, because yeah, that you will be able to get them the answer.
Yeah, I think there's something I say a lot is I don't want to have just the quick answer. I want to have the right answer. So let me go find that out and get that done for you, and I'll get back to you, as quickly as possible. But let me make sure it's the right answer, not just the quick answer.
Yeah.
So tell me, we talked a little bit about a client story. I want to go a little deeper on tell me a time when you consider the customer a hero. So tell me about a customer that you consider to be a hero and why.
Are you talking about in the transaction or just in life in general, or
whatever comes to mind? I would say, life or real estate. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So a couple things. Anybody that anybody that takes action in life, is a hero, right? So, and I look at my clients. I mean, moving, transition, the disruption, it takes something for folks, and you got to confront some stuff. You got to say, hey, is this worth it? Usually people are, there's a lot of money involved when they're doing transition from one house to another, or moving from a rental into here. But taking the action to better themselves, to get into a better situation, or right size, whatever, there's heroes there, right? And those are the in a transaction, buy or sell, getting through that. My clients are always the heroes in the stories, right? I'm like I don't know, they're the Luke Skywalkers. I'm the Obi-Wan Kenobis, right? I'll guide them, I'll advise them, I'll tell them what's there, but ultimately, it's their success to go there. And yeah, I see it all the time. I mean, I have three kids and that and I know what it would take for us to move. And when I see a family, even if it's one kid, right, what it takes for them to move to do it, I'm like, man, God bless you. This is good stuff.
Yeah.
And it's my job to let them know it inevitably always works out, right? And that's why I tell folks, I was like, hey, yeah, it might get a little murky, it might get a little crazy right here, but I've yet to not have it work out for somebody.
Not work out.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I guess a hero, kind of a client that's, kind of outside of it is, there's a guy named Andy Jacinko. He actually, he wrote a book called The Power of Optimism. He's just a super dynamic dude. I work with him in the Frank Kush Youth Foundation. But man, just talk about just the giving tree and the person of service and like I said, like the book says, the complete optimist of everything. Yeah, he's a guy I really look up to, and I'm really grateful to have met him.
So he has the foundation and then has written the book. Just kind of tell me a little bit more. I'm just kind of curious. Like I haven't heard of him, so I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah, so he has a book called Power of Optimism, and he's wrote a couple of them. He wrote another one. The title slipped my mind right now, but yeah, he's just I don't know how to describe him other than just an awesome human being, a giving person, right?
So what are you most optimistic about going into the next 90 days? And the question would be like, I want to know, like, what do you want to accomplish in the next 90 days? And then why is that important to you?
So I think our Arizona market here is, it's healthy, right? I mean, it's prime for some for movement. I think there's been some pent up as the national and world economies kind of shifted a little bit. Some of the interest rates have fluctuated up and now they're kind of coming down a little bit. I think there's been just some uncertainty that has kept people from who might have made a move before kind of just waiting it out a little bit. And I think now folks are realizing that the floor is not going to fall out from underneath me. And so I think there's going to be a pickup of activity in this next year. And well, it's not just me, it's a lot of other economists talking about it too. So again, this is one thing I've learned too, is not know all the answers, know where to go get the answer. So that's what I see. And then something for, I guess, me in the next 90 days is I'm implementing. I'm going to be I'm going to be trying to source some more off market opportunities. When when I got into this business, I provided some distress solutions and so forth. At that point in time, I was kind of a one trick pony. I was only looking to get it under contract, to either sell it or hold on to it as an investment. But now that we have the traditional business model designed and locked in, right, I can offer multiple services to some folks. And
so that's exciting, because one of the stories you said was you talked about how you helped a family that couldn't quite find what they wanted. So maybe there's some synergy there of like helping connect the dots or whatever that looks like. So that's exciting to see more of, and how that progresses over the next 90 days or so. And like I want to ask you something a little bit. 90 days is kind of short term, but let's go a little more long term. Like, what do you want in your resume in the next 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, well, I definitely want Yeah, I want the off market business thriving there. The one thing you know, as I am able to kind of elevate myself outside of the kind of the day-to-day activity of the business. So for example, we have our operations transaction manager, Jen, right? She we designed a bunch of systems. I mean, she executes those things, but it allowed me to get out of kind of the administrative work of those things, right? Which then freed me up to engage more clients, do some more prospecting and so forth. But as I get further away from that, I realize that my strength is probably the systems that I design, right? And while I do, man, I love the prospecting. I love talking with folks and finding their why and making a difference and resonating for them and so forth. I think that's I could definitely train some other folks to be as effective with that, at least for some of the initial engagement. But then and then I could, as I do with the transactions, right? I'm always in the background. I always know what's going on. I'm managing it, right? But it might not be the direct interaction with that. Same thing with engaging with new clientele or finding new opportunities.
So are you thinking of like building out your team bigger, or what's the kind of
yeah, so bigger's not always better, right? Yeah, basically kind of fire myself from the day-to-day outreach, per se, and manage the system, on there, and then so I guess my resume, so by doing that, it will allow me to then go maybe a little bit deeper with my clients. I have actually, I don't even know if I've ever said this out loud, but I have a goal to make my clients millionaires, right? I believe holding investment real estate is the best vehicle for that to happen. And so if we're able to source some off market inventory, offer that as a value add to our clients, also giving the people that we're sourcing the off market inventory a viable solution for them, then it's a win-win for everybody. And then I also get to contribute to my clients, my buyer clients, my investor clients, to their financial future. And then that trickles down to the difference they get to make in their family, to I don't know, whatever their charity is that they choose for, their church, whatever, right? It's just, and so that's the stuff that really gets my juices going. And again, it's they're the heroes, right? They're the ones taking the action. They're the ones that using me as some education, using whatever other sources they have as of education to do this stuff. And they're allowing me to be part of that journey with them. So,
do you see an uptick in distressed sales? Have you seen an uptick? We're recording this into 2023. I'm just kind of curious, like, what are you seeing?
I think so that distressed, it's not going to be like it was, right, in 08, 09. But yeah, I mean, I think, inflation, the interest rates, are still, even with them down, they're still 3-4% higher than they were before, right? So a refinance for some folks that find themselves stuck in a situation is not viable. And ultimately, this is one thing I learned. It's, and gosh, I can go into a whole other conversation about this. Not everybody's a homeowner, right? And maybe they got some bad advice, or they got kind of talked into it, or they got into something, or at the time life happens and some things popped up that hey, it doesn't make sense for me to own this house anymore, right? And the unfortunate thing is maybe they got behind on their payments, they can't get another loan, they can't do it. It's like, okay, well, this might be a blip of time that's here, but ultimately there's going to be a decision made for you with the house, regardless. How can we, get you to a better spot so that you could, get this stuff cleaned up right now, so you're better in the future.
Yeah.
Right. And again, like I said, it's not, yeah, I just have a toolkit of solutions I can provide folks, and it's not going to be for everybody, but yeah, there's a lot of not so great people that are also talking to homeowners in those type situations that wouldn't
We're seeing that a
offer
lot in,
equipment.
the
Yeah.
wholesale market and, unfortunately,
Mhm.
elderly community, and, they see these ads on the TV, and, it's definitely a pretty ruthless market out there. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the
Well,
one thing with us being licensed, right? We still have fiduciary, right? Even though we're not necessarily an agent or agent representative, we have to I'm talking to them as an agent, right?
yeah.
I'm required to let them know of their options, right? And and then again, we can provide the menu of the dishes, and they can choose which dish works for them, right?
So all these, like a lot of the companies you see advertised on TV or billboards, are those then not licensed agents though? Or are they operated through a licensed agent, or how does that work? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I don't know about all of them, but I know a lot of the guys in the wholesale business are not licensed, and the reason they don't get licensed is because there is that fiduciary component of it, right? And everything, they usually have a contract, a unique contract that they've had drafted by a lawyer that's typically one-sided, one-sided favored toward them as the buyer, that they preach the benefits of working with them when there is a lot of risk for the seller that's already in a kind of a risky situation here. And
Yeah.
so, all our stuff, yeah, I mean, yes, we'll look to, one of the exit strategies we would have would be a wholesale option, right? To sell it to another investor. The assign or to sell the rights of our contract that we have to another investor. But we're gonna make sure that that's a trusted investor that will close on the deal, not drag you out. And then the other thing is, all our stuff is done on the Arizona real estate contract, the accepted AAR contract. We'll have some wholesale specific language in there, but it's just above par, right? Some of these other guys are, they're in it for them, right?
So let's take a scenario that's real, because this happened to one of our neighbors. One of the spouses dies, and now they're trying to figure out what to do with the house. Everybody's hitting them up from different angles. A lot of times after that happens, what are three things that a homeowner should be just watching for if they're thinking about selling to a wholesaler or investor?
Yeah. Well, so is it the right solution for them? Right. That's the first thing. Okay. And so typically, whether you're selling it to us or to any wholesaler, right? You're basically trading equity, the value of the home, for the ease of the transaction, right? So, and that's, it is. It's one of the things we always say is, hey, if you're gonna, it's not for us to tell you what to sell it for, but this is what we can offer for it, right? Now you make the decision from there. Now, so that's the one thing. Say, hey, does it make sense for the ease of sale to a wholesaler? Makes sense. And then stuff you look like just a normal transaction. What's the earnest deposit? What's coming down here. You want to research the wholesaler, see what kind of reputation, what reviews they have, if any, out there. You want to ask how many they've done, right? I'm trying to think. What else. The stuff that we offer too is like, hey, well, if this is what we can offer for it. If that doesn't work for you, then hey, this is what it looks like. This is what you look like if you're going to bring it onto the market, right? So just going on here. I mean, hey, you got $50,000 of repairs you got to make just to bring it, bring it to market. Are you willing to do that? If that's the case, great. Then yeah, you could probably maximize the return on it at this point in time. Now, even after doing the $50,000 repair, you're still expecting to wait another 90 days before it actually closes. Does that still work for you? Because now the whole process, you got to maybe 6 months between doing the repairs to here, right? And so again, it's just for one, not being attached to what they choose, right? Just being a service, giving them some options, letting them know what's going on there. Not trying to convince you. People know when they're being sold, right? And that's selling. Being of service. So.
Very cool. That is an awesome way to end it. I appreciate you and being of service, give options, let them decide, but be there along with them, come along, the same side of the table, we say, is making sure we're here with you, we're not against you, and we want to help you through this process. So it sounds like, man, I really appreciate it. A lot of little insights, and I'm excited to go back and kind of think through and look at my notes and read the book, Power of Optimism. Super excited about reading that. I got that down. So a lot of takeaways here. Thank you so much for coming on, and we'll talk to you in the future and see how many millionaires you've helped, and also getting this other side back ramped up of your business. I know you're a great asset to homeowners out there that may need a different solution than a retail normal sale of the home. So you're a great guy, great realtor, great father, great husband, and really appreciate you coming on, man. Appreciate it.
Nah, right back at you, Kevin. And you're a great father as well. So
thanks for coming on. Talk to you soon.
Okay. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
And there you have it, folks. Another enlightening episode of the No Excuse Pro podcast is in the books. A heartfelt thank you to today's guests for sharing their wisdom, and to you, our valued listeners, for spending your time with us. If you're ready to ditch the excuses and level up, make sure to subscribe and find all our episodes at noexcusepropodcast.com. Don't forget, the only thing standing between you and your goals is the story you tell yourself. So no excuses accepted here. Take action and make it happen.